when I visited the set of Prince Caspian in Prague, this would have been just over a year ago, June 4th, 2007, one of the first changes, I think possibly the first change that I heard about when I was on set was I heard about the castle raid or the night raid, whichever you want to call it. And we had just visited one of the Aslan's house sets, and we were on our way to the castle courtyard, and the publicist Ernie Malick was kind of explaining the function of this set. And he said that, there's a scene that's not in the book where, Peter and Caspian lead an attack on Miraz's castle, and with dire consequences, he said. And my first reaction was, oh, it just sounds like, kind of roll my eyes at it and said, oh, this just sounds like another shameless attempt to get action sequences into a summer action film, I kind of rolled my eyes at it. And, of course, immediately thought of the melting river scene, which I hated the melting river scene. And, but I guess I thought about it more when I was there and thought, well, hopefully it'll be like the melting river scene in that you can just kind of hit skip on your DVD remote and that's it, it's gone. And I don't mean to actually do that. I just mean that the melting river scene is pretty much a contained scene. It doesn't affect the entire movie. It's just one little section there that you can kind of skip over if you want. It doesn't have huge ramifications, And so that's kind of what I thought it would be. Although the more if you watch these videos, you'll see that the more I thought about the night raid and the more I heard about it, the better I felt about it. It got to the point where I was actually excited about it. After seeing the movie, I can say that I actually like it, and so but we're gonna analyze it in this video. There's a section of the book that it was never really clear to me how they were gonna do it until after I saw the movie. We'd heard bits of it, of course. We knew the night raid was a part of it, but we didn't really know how it was all going to fit together. There's a section in Chapter 7 where Lewis skims over all these battles, and I don't remember if he says exactly how long of a period this covers, maybe a week or so. But he skims over all these in a few pages, like all these little battles that were happening. And then at the very end, he discusses one in more detail. He says that at last there came a night when everything had gone as badly as possible, and Caspian arranged his biggest battle yet, and they all hung their hopes on it, and the battle ends horribly. They do the enemy little harm, and there's a lot of Narnians are wounded or killed, and because of that, there are short tempers in the army, and a lot of arguing and bickering and a lot of frustration. It's the low point of the book for the good guys, and then because of that, they realize they have to call for help, and they decide to blow the horn and call the Pevensies. And I was always wondering, well, are they going to do how are they going to do that many battles in the movie? Or are they just going to do one battle? Are they going to do a few little ones? I mean, how are they going to do this? And then it started to become clear the more I heard about the night raid that this was kind of supposed to be a part of that. Instead of doing all these little battles, they kind of combined them all into one in a sense. And the night raid is basically sort of a different version, if you could say, of this battle. Now, this battle in the book Lewis talks about, it takes place just outside Aslan's house, somewhere around Aslan's house, that area, and it involves giant Wimbleweather making a terrible mistake, and because no one realizes that giants are idiots, and so obviously they cut out. Now, the goal of the battle in the book appears to be to capture Miraz or something like that, and so that's kind of what the night raid is. It's basically, it's the night raid is still very much. It's obviously there's some differences, but it still serves essentially the same function as it does in the book. It's a battle where the Narnians attack and try to capture Miraz presumably, and it goes horribly wrong. And because of that, there are short tempers in the army. That's Peter and Caspian arguing. And then they decide they have to call for help. And now in the movie, they call for help and realize we have to call Aslan. And in the book, it was we have to blow the horn. In the movie, it was we have to find Aslan so that he can help us. And so the night raid doesn't seem like that. I never thought of it as like a huge change, but after seeing it in the movie, it just seems more like a reimagining of this battle in the book. And the only real major change they're making here is that the Pevensies are present for the battle. In the book, this is obviously before they even blow the horn. Now, the reason that the Pevensies are there is because I agree with the decision to try to eliminate the flashbacks. It would be confusing. I've talked about this in another video. I'll talk about this more in later ones. It would be confusing to have the flashback thing in a movie. It's fine in a book when you have the kind of storybook kind of feel, but in a movie, it just would. I think it would be confusing. It'd be a pacing nightmare. It wouldn't really make sense to do it that way in a movie. And so that automatically meant that they wanted to bring the Pevensies and Caspian together sooner. I mean, you look at the book and they don't meet until almost the very end of the book. And so they brought them together a lot sooner in the story. So the major change here is that the Pevensies, they get there before that battle, and therefore they're a part of that battle. Therefore they're a part of those short tempers. Therefore they're a part of that call for help. The Pevensies are there from the beginning. That's the only major change here. Another change is the location. Of course, in the book, this battle takes place at somewhere around Aslan's Howe in that area, and in the movie, it's at the Miraz's castle. And there's a few reasons why I think this change is okay. Number one, they added a subplot to, obviously they fleshed out Miraz's character a lot for this movie, and I really liked it because I always found him to be kind of an interesting villain. He usurped the throne and cheated his way to get there. I was always really interested in that part, and it was, and it suggested a lot in my mind about what it would have been like, and it was nice to see all that visualized in the movie because that was always a part of the book that really interested me. So it was cool to see more of it. And but they added this subplot where he has to build a bridge in order to cross the river to reach the Narnians and eliminate them. And I like that because it kind of gives a visual, film is visual. It gave a sort of a, the bridge was basically sort of a visual countdown clock. We know that once the bridge is completed, Miraz can attack and the Narnians are dead. It was like a doomsday clock is what the bridge basically was. So I like that. So you couldn't have a battle take place at Aslan's Howe because Miraz can't get there. That's the whole point. He can't get there yet, and and the Narnians, out of desperation, well, before he gets there, we have to attack the castle. That's why Peter says our only hope is to strike them before they strike us. And also the battle was so they said, well, let's just have the battle take place at the castle because we can't do it, at Aslan's Howe. And obviously, of course, it gave them the chance to directly involve Miraz and have Caspian and and Miraz and all them actually meet. Also, it was just different, instead of having another battle at Aslan's Howe, let's do something different, have it take place at the castle. It also gave them the chance to rescue Dr. Cornelius, and I like Cornelius being imprisoned because it mirrors what happens to Nurse in the book, where Nurse is sent away. And it's important to show that in these days in Narnia, you can be killed or imprisoned for talking about the old stories. And obviously, they couldn't just do a nurse like they do in the book because Ben Barnes is too old, and the reason Ben Barnes had to be too old was because he had to be about the same age as William Moseley, who's aged. So it's kind of this, this domino effect where they make one change and they kind of have to make other changes to make up for it. But so the night raid still serves basically the same function. Then the ending, of course, is heartbreaking. Oh my gosh, when all those creatures are trapped behind the wall, and William Moseley did a wonderful job with the reaction. He's kind of has no choice. He's forced to kind of abandon them, and one of Glenstorm's sons is killed. And what a heartbreaking scene! And that's a great music cue right there as well. And I thought that was one of the most moving scenes out of the first two films. And so overall, the night raid. At the beginning, I kind of thought of it as kind of an annoying addition. And now I hardly view it as an addition at all, so much as it's just sort of a reimagining and sort of, different version of a battle that takes place in the book. It still serves there's some changes, but it still serves very much the same function as the battle in the book, where it's a battle that goes where the Narnians attack, it goes very badly, horrible, tragic consequences. There are short tempers in the army because of it. Now, I don't like the Peter Caspian scene, but hey, that's one thing where there is some basis for it, that there were short tempers in the army and that the Pevensies were drawn into that in the movie. So the battle goes badly, there are short tempers in the army, and because of that, they realize they have to call for help. In both the movie and the book, the battle basically serves the same function. And also, it was a well-done battle. Now, there are things within it I don't like the "Did you kill my father" thing. I hated that. Although I love the mice running through the halls and everything, because you don't really get to see them in the battle, so it's cool to see them, doing their thing there. So artistically, it's a well-done battle. It's a good scene. It's different, and it serves basically the same function as it does in the book. It shows the consequences of Peter doing something without Aslan's help. And thus, overall, I can say that not only do I not consider it that big of a change or that big of an addition, I can honestly say that I like it, and I'm glad that the night raid's in the film. I don't like everything in it, but overall, I'm glad that the night raid is in the film.